Okay, I think what we'll do is we'll probably start, because you've got quite a lot to cover, John. So I think if we start, and then people can just, join and tune in. So good afternoon, everyone. We are in the afternoon now. So I'm Andrea Collins from Oxlet's Escalate programme. And I have joining me today for our 5th webinar in the programme, I think now we're approaching the end, is John Ellard from Ellard Out Loud, and he is a digital media specialist. We've been in conversations regarding several clients over recent weeks, so I think you're in good hands today. But he's going to be talking about adopting a strategic approach to digital marketing, which I know will resonate with a number of clients that we've certainly spoken to via Oxlet. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to John. John, I'm going to let you drive, so I'll make you host.
Thank you.
Then it's over to you. John's probably going to cover this with you, but if you've got questions as we go through, just pop them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we can answer them on the fly, or we might wait till halfway through or towards the end of the presentation. But let me just pass over to John. There you go, John, over to you. So you should be able to share your slides.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. Firstly, thank you very much to Andrea and Oxlet for the opportunity to do this afternoon. This is my first webinar, so I do have to trust Andrea in that there's actually people out there and I'm not just talking to my mum and dad. So hopefully it is the first, and that we've got some subscribers on today. I'm going to take about 40-45 minutes of your time this afternoon to go through more of a practical session on how to adopt a strategic approach to your social media marketing. For those of you who like PowerPoint presentations, apologies, there's only 3 slides. For those who don't like PowerPoint presentations, this bit will be over quite quickly. So throughout the next 30-45 minutes, I want you guys to do some big picture thinking. So in the back of your mind, the whole time I'm talking and also taking some questions, I just want you to be thinking about your business and the following things. I want you to be thinking about what your business plan is, whether that's a 6-month business plan or a 3-year business plan, and what your goals are for that period. And typically with goals, it's good if they're smart, so that they're specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. Because what I'd like to do is align your business plan and your goals with any marketing or social media marketing that you plan to be doing. I also want you to be thinking about your target audience at all times. And the process I'm going to go through is going to hopefully help you understand who your target audience might be a bit better. I want you to think about what social media channels your audience use and why they're using it. And the second bit's as more important than the first bit, because just because they're on a social media channel doesn't mean that they're using it because they want to find a new service or a product. It could be they're using that social media channel for their leisure time or, family reasons. So just because they're using a social media channel doesn't necessarily mean it's the right one for you to promote yourself on. I want you to think about what content your audience want. So when you're engaging with them on social media, what is it that they want from them? Is it facts? Is it answers to questions? Is it tips and advice? Is it discounts? Is it updates to your product or your service offering? And finally, I want you to think about how you're going to distribute and get your content in front of those people, and more importantly, how to get those people to engage with your social media content. I want today to be a practical session, so I'm not going to much about culture or building a community in detail, but any social media you are doing, there probably needs to be a culture behind your business for being on board with social media. You need a supportive community around you to get that initial kind of engagement. You may even need to orchestrate that initial social media that you're doing with a phone call or an email. And then finally, you might need some influences within your community that can give it a bit more push. So just have a think about those 5 things while we're going through this afternoon's session. Andrew and I spoke a couple of months back. These are the learning outcomes that we put together, and I believe were in the advertising that went out for this session. So if I'm going to be of some value this afternoon, I need to address these kind of learning points, which is how to develop a social media strategy, how to choose the right social media platforms, how to generate leads using social media, how to become an authority on social media, and how social media will increase traffic to your websites. And finally, we're going to start putting together a draft 6-month plan. In order to deliver those outcomes, I'll tell you about myself in 30 seconds, because hopefully you found me on social media. Hopefully you've seen my website. But I started marketing 20 years ago. My first client was a beer drinking Shetland pony called Sparky. It is exactly what it says on the tin. It was a small Shetland pony that used to walk into one of my pub's clients and neck a pint of bitter or any leftover beer. This was quite unique, so we thought there was some marketing in it. And Sparky went on to appear on Blue Peter, German TV, Japanese TV, and was a very short-lived media sensation. Unfortunately, Sparky did die a few years later, but the PR and the marketing that my pub client got off the back of Sparky was great. It was before social media was around. That was 20 years ago. Since then, I've run a direct marketing company that promoted government-funded schemes like Investors in People, ISO 9000, and modern apprenticeships. And for my early days, I was doing a lot of telemarketing, so appointment generation by phone. In 2003, I saw where the world was going with regards web and digital, and I started a digital marketing agency called Urban Element, which I co-own with my wife and has 10 people working from an office in West Oxfordshire in Witney. They're all currently working from home, unfortunately. And then 2 years ago, I started Ellard Out Loud because the problem with running a company or being an MD company is you stop doing what you enjoy doing and you start doing all the things that you don't want to do. So I started Ellard Out Loud so that I could work with small to medium-sized businesses on a one-to-one basis, on a personal basis, to help them align their business plan with their digital marketing activities. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm going to stop the PowerPoint presentation now and bring up a document. While I do that, I'm going to ask you this question, and if you can put your answer into the comments, I'm going to ask Andrea to pick the top 3 or top first 3 correct answers. And can either have an hour of my time free of charge in the coming months, or they can have a bottle of champagne. I won't be offended if you go for the bottle of champagne. That's your choice. But what I'd like you to do in the comments section is type what are the 3 most popular social networks worldwide as of July 2020, ranked by number of active users. And there's a slight twist in that one you're thinking of might not be classed as a social network. So what are the top 3 social networks worldwide as of July 2020, ranked by number of active users? You've got a minute while I close down my PowerPoint to have a think.
Wow, we've got some eager champagne drinkers here, I think, John. There's a lot of comments in the chat. Do you want me to start reading through some of them?
Yep, just give a few of the answers.
Well, Lauren was quick off the mark. She said Instagram as being the most popular. Then we had from Lucy, TikTok, then LinkedIn, then Facebook. Chloe, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Instagram features quite highly here. We've got a Twitter mention. So somebody else has said Instagram, Twitter, then LinkedIn. Somebody has said Facebook, LinkedIn to YouTube. Facebook, LinkedIn, then YouTube. And we're getting mention of a Chinese one. Is that Waymo? I haven't heard of Waymo. WeChat, but not Waymo. Waymo gets a few mentions. There's WeChat there as well. And then the last one's from Christian, Facebook, then YouTube, then WhatsApp. Now I would have said Facebook across the globe personally, but you're probably going to tell me I'm wrong.
We'll have a look now. So this is the official stats, just loading up now. The trick was anyone who put LinkedIn. Unfortunately, LinkedIn is not technically classed as a social network. It's classed as a professional networking platform and job posting site. So the top three are Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp. The biggest movement over the last couple of years has been Instagram, and in the last year, TikTok. So they are up and coming. The Chinese ones are coming in there. I'd have to expand the report for us actually to see where Twitter's coming in. So Twitter as a whole, unless you are into the kind of the American elections and the kind of political stuff in America, Twitter is actually dropping off in popularity. So if you said Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, and you were the first, you get an hour of my time or a bottle of champagne. And if no one got those three exactly right, just go with the closest one and let them know my details and I'll be in touch with them.
That's great. So I think that's over to Christian then. Christian had put it exactly in that order: Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp. So well done, Christian. I will hook you up with John after this call. Brilliant. Sorry, back to you, John.
Thank you. Okay, so today's session is in two parts. One, I'm going to take you through what I call a digital marketing questionnaire. And I'm going to go through it quite slowly, and I'm going to use one of my clients as an example so that as well as the theory behind some of this, you can see how they've put it into practice. I'm going to do a couple of exercises as we go through this just to get you thinking, and I'll take some questions at the end of this part before we start looking at putting together a 6-month plan. So the client is the Plough at 38. For any social media strategy to have any chance of success, you need to have a good understanding of what the history of the business is, what your company background is, and just basic information about the company, standard. What's more important is to work out what your goals are. So what are you trying to achieve in the next 6 months, 3 years? So with the Plough at 38, they want to be the best and informal eatery in Oxford. They want to be top in Google, TripAdvisor, and be known by everyone. A place where it's comfortable to have a coffee, pastry, beer, and a meal. That's not so much a goal, that's more of a vision or a mission, in my opinion. This is where it starts being specific. To average 100 covers per day in the bar and restaurant by August 2020. This pre-COVID, so these were the goals I agreed with Chris back in February of this year. And we started looking at where it was busy and where it wasn't busy. They also wanted to be in the top of Google for 3 relevant keywords. So they wanted to see their Google rankings improve for certain keywords, and they wanted to know how social media could contribute to that.
John, can I just interrupt for 1 second? Yeah. We've got somebody asking what they'll get at the end of this session. So in terms of, obviously, the PowerPoint slides, you wouldn't mind handing those out. But in terms of this document as a blank document, is that something you could share? Or is that something that somebody would have to engage with you in order to complete?
No, I mean, in all honesty, I think the format I use is probably used by other consultants and other companies around the globe. So I think it's easily found on, mine's hopefully a bit more bespoke, but the simple answer is yes, I'm more than happy to share this. And I'm also happy to share the framework of a 6-month plan. So anything I show you this afternoon, guys, I will be happy to send a blank copy over to Andrea, and Andrea can distribute it to you.
That's much appreciated.
Get in touch with me personally. Perhaps if you do use it, you could go to my LinkedIn account or the Plough at 38 and like some of their posts. That'd be very, very much appreciated. So we're looking at, you might ask, why are we talking about keyword rankings when we're talking about social media, but I will come to that. So they wanted to look at where they're ranking for their brand and where they're ranking for search terms like Oxford restaurant, Oxford pubs, Sunday roast Oxford, fine dining. And the simple report told them what kind of volume there was around for those search terms. So 22,000 people search for Oxford restaurants on google.co.uk every month. 8,000 search for Oxford pubs, 590 people search for Sunday roast Oxford, 260 people search for fine dining Oxford. The reason that's quite relevant is these might become the hashtags that you use in your social media. So a hashtag is something that you can use in a post to say to people that there's conversation or there's further content around that. So rather than taking a stab in the dark about what a hashtag to use, you could use the information you get from knowing how many people search for a term on Google to become your hashtag. And I'll show that in practice in a bit more detail later. Their fourth goal was to have 1,000 plus LinkedIn connections by July 2020 from Oxfordshire businesses. They currently have, at the time they had 0, and the Austin Reed account was dormant. So he didn't even have a public facing LinkedIn account. I mention that now because we're going to talk about whether LinkedIn is the right platform for a pub and restaurant, and whether perhaps the more obvious ones such as Instagram and Facebook are more relevant for a B2C hospitality type client. Workplace core values. It's good to know who the team is behind the business and what their core values are. With them, it's things like we taste our wines and food and are passionate about the quality of them. So the fact that Austin and his team are passionate about their wine and their food, as you'd expect, is going to make that become quite a natural part of their social media strategy. If they're interested in it, if it's a core value, if they're passionate, it lends itself to any social media strategy. More importantly are the kind of unique selling points, the points of differentiation. So I would spend some time thinking, what is it that you do that's different to your competitors? What is that you do that your clients really like? And the reason we're doing this is going to start giving us some kind of content ideas or some kind of theme or campaign as to what we're doing on social media. So Plout 38 talked about the fact that they're a microbrewery pub and they have 3 fermenting tanks. One's called Tom, one's called Dick, one's called Harry. They're a city centre pub and restaurant. They've got an association with the catering school. They are one of the oldest pubs in Oxfordshire, and they're very proud of their locally sourced food. So by filling this in, I'm starting to think, well, what are the stories we can tell around this? What are the influences we can get around this? Who are the other people we can draw into this kind of conversation? We then moved on to personas. Some of you might have heard it as target customer profile, creating an avatar, creating a persona. But this is where you're thinking, who is my ideal target customer? What do they look like? What are their demographics? What are their age? When do they browse on the internet? What do they use to browse the internet? What's their favorite social media channel? Why are they using that social media channel? And this first one was done by Hattie, who's one of the bar managers. Hattie chose to actually draw out that target persona. And if we look at it, it's age 30 to 50s, gender doesn't matter, frequently eats out, knows their wine, eats with a group of friends or as a couple, works outside of Oxford, which was interesting, smart but casual wear, eats for the experience, sits down for a 3-course, orders wine and is in no rush, uses social media and will tag, and uses Facebook and Instagram. So that's a way of sort of creating a persona. We're getting an idea of what their interests might be. We're getting interest of where they're based geographically, age, etc. This is the one that I helped put together with the owner, and it's the second persona, and it's the business professional, owner, manager, director. And basically this one is similar, but works in Oxford, or at least networks in Oxford. So this is somebody that is an active business person in Oxfordshire that will network for coffee, will network for a light lunch, also runs a business or is in a business in Oxfordshire, and therefore would have team events, Christmas parties, corporate events, supplier, client lunches. So start thinking about your personas, and if you can come up with 2 or 3, that's great. And that might be a good time for me to just grab a bit of water while you just write down on a bit of paper or type up on your keyboard. Just type up one goal that you want to achieve from your social media activities. So it could be you want to get so many followers on Facebook. It could be that you want to get so many followers on Twitter. It could be that you want to connect with 100 people in a geographic area that are in your target sector. So it could be that you want to go for 100 carpenters, or it could be that you want to go for 100 accountants or 100 solicitors. But just write up one goal that you want to achieve. Think about their persona. So think about their age, their interests, where they live, what kind of house they have, are they affluent, are they educated? And then start thinking about where you think the most likely social media platform would be that they use and engage with. And I'm just going to pause for 30 seconds while you have a think on that.
John, typically when you engage with a client, how readily do they have these answers available, or is it kind of like a bit of a brainstorming session with you where you tease out some of the answers from them?
Most clients have it. They just haven't necessarily taken the time to
Documented
think
it.
about it. They're too busy in their business rather than thinking outside of their business. You could argue that you need an advisor or an expert to go through this process. It could be a business coach, it could be somebody else. But I think more often than not, you've got the peer support around you. It could be a family member, it could be a trusted customer that you have, that you could go and ask these questions with them, and you'll get probably a very different answer to some of the answers that you would give yourself when going through this. But what
But
I
it's that
suppose I'm
external
saying there,
perspective, isn't it? It's having that external perspective and somebody to challenge your thinking, because it's quite difficult, I think, doing this around your own company, if that makes sense.
yeah,
It always is.
yeah. I don't want to assume that the people listening right now are necessarily in networking groups or have peer support or have people around them that could do this. So I'm not assuming it's necessarily that straightforward for everyone. But I think if you can go through this kind of process with somebody that you trust, not necessarily to just give you the answer that you want to hear, you would start being able to fill in most of these boxes.
Yeah, wonderful, thank you.
So hopefully you've got a goal, a persona, and a social media platform that you're going to start thinking about focusing on. The next part is to really think about the content. So when you run your social media campaign, whether it's over a 3-month period or a 6-month period, you're going to need content. The worst thing to do is go out and do a post or a tweet to say, I'm now active on this channel. I'm going to be coming to you with help, advice, tips, white papers, competitions, and then in a week's time, realize you've actually got no content to follow it up. So what content does your target audience actually want? Is it that they want help and advice? Is it they want answers to certain questions? Is it they want white papers? If you're an accountant right now, you're probably doing a lot of content about the COVID updates and about what's available in financial support. If you're a solicitor, you're very busy at the moment, probably as a solicitor, but you might be updating people about what current legislation is around things. For a public house, it's slightly easier. Their target audience wants specials. They want to know about the food. They want to know about the latest sales. They want to know about any promotions. You've got people who like the history around pub, and you've got people who like to have competitions. So now we've got an idea of what content the audience wants and is going to engage with. We're going to have to think about the graphics and images. So any post that you do on any social media channel will have more engagement if there's an image or graphic with it. And from a brand perspective, I would always advise that the imagery or graphics or infographics that you use are branded to give it that kind of brand consistency and get people to relate that image with you and your brand or your service. So you've got to start thinking about, how am I going to produce those graphics? How am I going to get images? Are they going to be professional? Are they going to be stock? So, and I would have the graphics already planned out for a 3-month campaign. And I'd also think, how can I repurpose graphics? So how can I get double my value for producing these graphics? So if we look down here, they need food shots. They needed, back in February, they wanted experience, busy atmosphere shots. So they wanted busy pub, busy restaurant. July hit and it was all about space, distance, and outside shots. They decided they were going to take their own photography, and I'll talk about that in a minute when we look at their social media platform. They wanted pictures of the new ales that were coming out. So this is like the part of the beer pump that has the name of the pub. Then they wanted Christmas party images, and they wanted Christmas competition images. These images here could be found on a free stock site, or they can be found on iStock for a small fee. With a little bit of branding, you can turn a simple image of cutlery into a more festive looking image. With a little bit of logo branding and a little bit of text, you suddenly turned a bought image into a branded image. So they bought 12 images to promote the Christmas party, and then we reused those 12 images to promote their Christmas competition. But if you were looking at them, you possibly wouldn't realize it was the same image used for a different purpose. But the point I'm trying to make is, don't start your social media activity until you've got good graphics, infographics, or images. And subject to your budget, work out how you're going to do that. If you give a graphic designer a strong brief and you supply the images that you've bought from iStock and just say, I need these branded, or I need these to have a slightly different look and feel, they should be able to come back to you with quite a good price. Recently, I did a campaign for a client where they wanted 12 images and they got them for £100 once we'd sourced them and once we'd sorted out the tagline. If there's any graphic designers listening out there, I appreciate that. With graphic design, there comes an expertise. And if you're looking for a more specific infographic or something with a bit more time and effort, you could then be into the hundreds and thousands. So apologies if I've done any graphic designer a disservice, but subject to your budget, you've got to think about your images. You also need to think about contributors and influencers and how you can possibly use their images. So the Plough at 38, are very fortunate enough to have some support from some Oxfordshire businesses, but it just makes a simple graphic for us to use. All we've done is taken 5 logos and created an image. And I'll come back to why these are important in a bit. Look at your competition. 2 reasons. One, you need to be aware of what your competition and either be better than them or quick to follow what they're doing. So it's good to look at who your main competitors are. And then more importantly, what is it you like that they're doing? So when we looked at number 1 Ship Street, I don't know if anyone knows it in Oxford, but it's a really nice restaurant, probably opposite to where the Plough at 38 is on Cornmarket Street. They are really strong on their social media. They're good on Instagram. They're good on Facebook. They lead with food shots and changing menus. They've got good corporate social responsibility / charity links. So within their content, they're quite often talking about the work they're doing with Sobel House, and they've got a very good newsletter. I know it's a good newsletter because I've subscribed to all my clients' competitors' newsletters so that I see what their competitors are doing, and we can quite honestly reuse or plagiarize some of the things that they're doing well. The Oxford Kitchen, we're doing things like Dish of the Day, Dish of the Week, and they've got really good endorsement or promotion from Muddy Stilettos, who are just really good at promoting the businesses that they work with. So look at what your competition's doing, learn from it, use some of what they're doing, but also have a look to see if there's a gap in what they're not doing. Tone of voice. Just make a quick note of how you want to come across on your various social media channels. So we've already mentioned that LinkedIn's more of a professional networking group. It's going to have more of a professional tone of voice. Facebook, it's a bit more casual. Instagram, it's very casual. Twitter, it depends what you're going for. But just write down whether you want your social media tone of voice to be casual, formal, funny, serious, low on facts, detail heavy, enthusiastic, matter of fact. That will help you if you're writing your own posts and content, or give you a better brief to give to your content marketing company, your social media person. It'll give them a better brief of what to use and how to sound. You don't want to just be putting stuff out on social media. You don't want to be chucking a load of mud against the wall. It never sticks, it never works. So you've got to work out what product or service you're particularly looking to push in this campaign. So this is going back to what is your USP, who is your target audience, what are you trying to get a lead for, what are you trying to get brand awareness for. Don't go there with the whole business service set or every product that you've got. Choose a couple that are potentially your cash cow. So for them, it's to get an average of 100 covers per day in the restaurant and bar. That is their cash cow. That's the thing that pays the bills. That's the thing that pays the staff. The opportunity is to start getting busier in the mornings for coffee, and the people that come in for a coffee look at the brunch menu and think, do you know what, I will stay now for my eggs Benedict. And the best Sunday and lunch is just another opportunity for them that something they started doing. They want a busy Sunday as well. Niche is things like the kind of Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Halloween, Xmas, New Year's Eve. And again, with some of the people that are listening that perhaps got a service or a product offering, it might be that you provide a discount or a theme or a certain type of service or product around these kind of calendar events. For this client, there was some more niche events where Subfusk, this is when all the students arrive in Oxford and they buy their gowns and they go and get their stuff from Shepherd and Woodward, Waters of Oxford. They've got their parents with them because they're paying the bills. Once they've done their Subfusk and bought their stuff, what do they want to do? They want to have a meal, they want to have a drink with their parents or their grandparents. It's an opportunity for the Plough at 38 to get their social media in front of these parents, these students that are around for Subfusk. And that's basically joining the Oxford College at the beginning of September. Seasonal, are there any things that are happening seasonally that you need to be on top of? So if you're busy at a certain period of time, and not busy at another period of time, you might want to increase your social media activity in that dip or that lull. It might be that there's certain things going on that you can piggyback off the back of. In Oxfordshire, boat race is a big thing, so they could be doing a boat race themed promotion, a boat race themed meal, cocktail, etc. So just think about some of the things that are going on seasonally. Look at all the events and conferences that are in your sector, whether you're going to go to them or not. So I'm not saying you have to start going to all the exhibitions and all the conferences. You wouldn't be able to right now anyway. But when we get through COVID and you start thinking about any kind of events going on in London, the big conference facilities, make sure you've got a voice around them so that you're following them on social media, you're engaging with some of their content. But initially, make sure you know what they are so that you can start putting them into a plan. It'd be a good idea to break down each of the channels that you want to go on. So put down if you want to be on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And start looking at whether your social media channel is branded. If it's not branded, don't start posting on it. Wait until you've got a good header image and a good headshot on that channel. Make sure you've got access to it and that it's not through your incumbent or your old supplier or an old member of staff or team member that's now left you. They set up Google reviews, they set up Facebook, they set up Instagram, and they've left and you no longer got that access. Make sure you've got access and you know what the passwords are. Take a benchmark of where you're currently at. So write down how many you are as of the date that you're about to start a new campaign so that you can go back and measure the success. Write down what the goals of that channel are. Write down how frequent you think you need to be on it. Write down who's going to be responsible for it. And you can see with this one, Twitter, it's not branded. It's not the focus of their campaign. They've got 49 followers. They're not interested and it's not right for this client. Whereas Facebook, it is branded. They have access. They've got 452 followers. That's gone up by about 200. The frequencies, they're doing 2 per week, but it's a little bit sporadic. The person responsible is Hattie, bar manager. The big do's and don'ts is do not do bad food shots on Facebook. Big picture target is Facebook for them is a B2C social media channel, and it's very much aimed at the tourist who's walking by in Oxford and is looking somewhere nice to eat. Groups for them to join or follow on Facebook: Experience Oxfordshire, Oxford United and Oxford City, and Ox in a Box. So if you're going to be active on Facebook, you should be looking at groups on Facebook that have synergy in what you do, or potentially will have similar followers to who you want. Join those groups, be active on those groups, and you may pull some of those followers over to your own channel. I'm not going to mention Instagram, but I'm going to talk about LinkedIn. At the time of doing this, they didn't have a branded LinkedIn account. They had access, but they had 0 connections as of the 13th of March 2020. The audience type that they could have been going for on LinkedIn is Oxfordshire businesses with big teams. And the goal of that channel was to get to 1,000 new connections. The frequency was going to be 1 article per month and 4 additional posts. Responsibility was going to be myself. Big do's. This is B2B. Sorry, big pardon. This is B2B. So keep it professional. Big picture targets. We want Xmas party bookings. We want brunch. We want networking. So each channel that you are going to be focusing on should have a goal. It should have a responsibility assigned to it. It should have a frequency of posts. Start thinking about any kind of campaigns or forums that are going around your sector or your industry. So with retail, you've certainly got, keep the high street open. You've got shop independents. I'm sure we've all seen on Facebook recently that if we spend £100 with local independents, that will give them, or £100 a year. If we each spend £100 a year with independents rather than the chains, we could put £3 million into the economy, into the small business economy. So are there any campaigns that are going on that you can be supportive of? For them, it's Independent Oxford, Save the High Street, Save the Microbrewery, Source Local Food, Back British Farming, Keep Britain Farming, Country Living campaigns. So for yourself, do a bit of research around what's popular and what's campaigns, what forums there are out there for your individual sector or business. If you're going to run a social media campaign, you've got to have content, and you've got to have content ideas and themes. So just start writing down what you could actually be writing about. You've already sat down and said, my goal is to sell so many of this product, or take on so many more leads, or have brand awareness by this point. You've written down a target persona of who you're trying to attract, whether it's a fleet manager in the automotive sector, and you want them to come and do your use your car graphics service. You know that they're probably going to be interested in either light, fun stuff, or they're going to be interested in facts, figures, or they're going to be interested in how-to content. So you've got an idea of what kind of content they want, who the target audience is, and what you're trying to achieve from that. Just start writing out some titles. 5 reasons why the Plough at 38 stands out from other Oxford restaurants. Meet Tom, Dick and Harry at our old school pub. 7 reasons why we use local suppliers at our Oxford restaurant, etc., etc. The reason you'll see numbers behind the kind of content ideas is it's giving you the structure on how to turn that into social media posts. So if you've written a blog post on your website about the 5 reasons for anything, that gives you 5 posts. It gives you a series of posts. You're basically writing content to then reuse and repurpose as social media posts. So if you've done something on your website as a news item, as a case study, as a blog post, as an FAQ, you can use that content in your social media activity. And if you've said 7 tips when laying down your timber flooring, 5 ways to reduce the cost of putting your tax return together, anything like that where you've got 5, 7, 9, 6, 3, that gives you the ability to break them down into individual posts. It also means you can use one piece of content and keep the story going, constantly having to think up new content ideas. So just again, so I can take a little bit of water, think about the one product or service that you really want to focus on, and then think about what content or theme of content you could be writing around that product or service. So don't think necessarily what you think is great about your product or service, because you're going to be feature, feature, feature. Start thinking about what the benefit around your product or service is to your target audience. What is it they want to know about that? How they're going to benefit from that piece of content, that product or service that you're talking about.
John, just while you're taking a quick break, we've got a question. So how do you post content on a LinkedIn company page?
How do we post content on a LinkedIn company page?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have to go back. So that's a good question. I'm going to have to log out of who I was logged in with and then come back in. So excuse me 1 second. So first of all, you'd have to have been given access to address the company page. So the person who set up the company page, if that's not you, you're going to have your profile added to it. So my wife's business is Urban Element. This is the family business. I'm now on the company page. I'm viewing as a member at the moment. Also, I beg your pardon, I'm viewing as an admin. If I wanted to view as a member, I'd click on view as a member. So I'm seeing what a member or anyone else would see. If I click as view as admin, because I've been given admin rights, I've now got the ability to edit the page, and I've also got the ability to add content. And there we are, start post. So hopefully that was probably clear as mud. But first of all, you need to be administered. You need to be administered to the page. Once you've got administrator rights, you view it as admin rather than viewing it as member. You go to home and you go to start a post. Now, on a company page, you can only do posts. You cannot write an article. Oh. It's a really weird thing with LinkedIn that they do not allow you to write articles on a company page. They do allow you to write posts. Whereas on your personal LinkedIn account, you can do an article. While we're talking about posts and articles, one thing I would say is in the actual post itself, never stick in a website link. So never do, for more information about what I've just written, go to this URL or this domain, because LinkedIn will not place that post with as much priority or as many places as a post or an article that doesn't have a URL in it. So do your post without the URL, and then in the comments, put, for more details, find us on our website.
Wow, that's interesting. Is that just circumnavigating the algorithm? It just doesn't like a certain type of post, so it's a workaround.
It's two things. LinkedIn wants to keep you within LinkedIn. It doesn't want you necessarily disappearing from the channel. And it's just part of the algorithm. It wants you to basically stay within the content of LinkedIn.
Okay.
I need to just
the same person's actually asking, so does that mean that it can only be in short form on the business page? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Let's see, but just while you're switching back, John, I have a quick question. So what's the demise of Twitter? What's the reason behind that? You know, you say that it's slipping further down the ranks in terms of its popularity, because I always think it's quite a good signposting tool. You know, you can signpost to content that you've got on other social media sites, but perhaps I'm not using it properly.
To be honest, Andrea, I'm not sure what the real answer is. I think it's probably because it's been around longer than Instagram, and Instagram has sort of taken over from the kind of quick, short updates, which are obviously a lot more image heavy. Twitter has always been more popular in America than it is in the UK. I think it's basically down to the limited amount of information you get within a tweet. And you can see with Twitter that they've constantly increased the amount of characters that they've had to try and keep up.
That's right, yeah.
And they've started making it easier to add images. I mean, the other reason with Twitter is you can't target as well geographically. So with Twitter, you can only really go for a UK target audience, whereas with LinkedIn and Facebook, you can target counties, regions. So it's almost like Twitter's a bit too generic, whereas Facebook and LinkedIn's analytics have allowed you to become a lot more geographic focused.
Oh, that's interesting. Thank you.
But that's more my opinion, Andrea, rather than necessarily fact.
But it's a good one. So thank you for that. I'm sorry we've made you jump all over the place. I'll mute myself again, and you can go back to your flow.
It's okay. Hopefully, I've just logged back into the account I wanted. So bear with me 1 second. Yeah. So hopefully you've written down a product or service that you want to be focusing on and started thinking about a series of content or type of content that you can write around it. What you've got to think about now is who could contribute or who could influence that content. So I mentioned at the start of this PowerPoint slide that if I'm being honest, I think most social media posts or most social media campaigns need a bit of an orchestrated kickstart. And by that, I mean, you need to start forming your social media community. It could be that you've got a highly engaged team or staff that love the company, love your brand, love what you do. And therefore, if you put something out on social media and they're connected with you, they're going to be the first to endorse it, share it, like it. It might be that you are part of a networking group and that every week you go to the networking group, or if you're on a WhatsApp chat with them, you could say, hey group, what would be really helpful for me this week is not an opportunity or a referral, but could you just go and like and share and comment on this post? With some of our old clients, they were never on social media, and yet it was their input or their like or their endorsement that I really wanted. And I would have to pick up the phone to speak to them to find out who did their social media marketing or who their agency was, to then speak to them to say, can you go and like and share or follow us on? So you've got to think about where your community is and how much orchestration you need to do to get that initial push. And that's sort of forming the culture is having your team and your staff and your suppliers on board with your social media. So you've told them that you're going to be doing it. You've made some announcements. You've done some training. That's getting your kind of internal community on board with you. Then you've got your friends, your family, close suppliers, close businesses that will always scratch your back if you'll scratch theirs. And then you move into the area of influences. So who out there has the audience that you want, basically? So who out there has got the followers or the audience that you really want to be engaging with? I'm just conscious of time, Andrea, so I'm going to move on from that bit and show some practical examples. So we're talking about influences, we're talking about important external voices. So who else do we want to talk about your social media? So our club needs to keep an eye on the City Council, TripAdvisor, Google Reviews. There's bloggers and food bloggers called Bitten, Oxfordshire Foodie, Good Food Oxford. Analytics, what should we be tracking? Because we're doing all this social media activity. Is it actually driving any traffic to your site? And I'm just going to bring up a screen grab now, or an active screen now. If you've got your analytics set up correctly, you should be able to go into your analytics, click on acquisition, go down to social, go to overview, and then you can say, right, over this period of time, how many people have come from Twitter to my webpage? How many people have come from Facebook? How many people have come from Instagram? How many people have come from LinkedIn? This will tell you that either it's a waste of your time being on that channel, or you're not active enough on that channel to get people to go from a social post into your website. And not just into your website, but into that landing page or that product page or that service page. This bit's taking a bit longer than I thought, so I'm going to try and wrap this up and then move on to the 6-month plan. How am I doing for time, Andrew? Is it 1 o'clock close?
Yes, it's typically 1 o'clock close. A couple of people might have to nip off at 1 o'clock, but if we go slightly over that, that's fine if it's okay with you.
Okay, the last thing I'd do on the DMQ, guys, is I would say, what is it you're trying to report on? So if you're doing this yourself, I would still give yourself what information do you want at the end of a month's worth of social media activity? Is it the amount of bookings, inquiries, leads generated from social media? Is it the improvement in rankings? Is it that you've seen an increase in traffic? Going back to that analytics, you know, if you're hopeless at search engine optimization, if you don't want to go down paid advertising or Google ads, you can increase site traffic through your social media engagement, but you need to measure it. You might just be into it for the kind of ego. How many likes have I had? How many shares have I had on that? That's great, but if it doesn't generate a lead or if it doesn't generate a touch point, it's just vanity. But social reach and engagement will be important. I'm not going to take questions now. I'm going to move on and take some just 5 minutes before the end. Before I look at the 6-month plan for the plough, I just want to show you Adept Graphics and put some of what I said into a bit of context. So Adept Graphics, they are Fleet Graphics, Fleet Library, Fleet Signage. If we look at their 2 social media channels, so on the LinkedIn thing, they are talking about fleet work that they've done, brand new fleet work for credit management company, brand new fleet work for Hyperoptic, brand new fleet work for MSFP, Turner's Flooring, Warburton. So a lot of their posts are about the fleet work that they've done and why they're specialists in fleet livery, fleet signage, fleet graphics. And, you know, it gets good views, 212 views, 800 views. Then we start looking at the corporate social responsibility bit. So they went and found a charity called Special Effect, and they said, what can we do to support you as a charity? They said, you could wrap our events van. Currently it goes out as white. We go to Sega, we go to Microsoft, people look at our van, they want a selfie, but all we've got is a blank white van. So my client wrapped their van and basically did a post donating free fleet livery to Special Effect. And that got 40 likes, 10 comments, and people viewed the article. What was better is Special Effect are a big influencer. If we look at Special Effect, they have over 3,000 followers. So when Special Effect also did the same post, there was 57 likes, 7 comments, and that pushed people back to the Adept Graphics website. So Special Effect with 3,000 followers even mentioned Adept Graphics. You could click on that and get to Adept Graphics. Ideally, they wouldn't have done the web link there. They would have done the web link in the comments below. But, you know, it's a small thing. So if we look at Ryan on LinkedIn, is very much about B2B, fleet work, etc., etc. He's getting good views. If we look at Ryan on Facebook, he's talking about the fact that they did a vehicle graphic for a motorhome wrap. So this is somebody's own vehicle. That's hence why the registration's blanked out. They've done it for, if we go down, they've done it for somebody's car. They've done a color change for a car. Again, we've got the special effect thing coming through, but then we've also got, we've got a team shot. So we're talking about a team on Facebook. If we go down a bit more, we've got a limousine. So their Facebook is more B2C, their LinkedIn is more B2B. The reason why their LinkedIn is so successful is we've actively gone out and connected with as many fleet managers as possible. So I'm now looking at Ryan's LinkedIn connections. So to get there, you would go to, we'll start at home. So that's when you log into your account. If you go to My Network, you click on My Network, it'll load up in a sec. On the left, you'll have a link to say, who are my connections? You click on your connections, and Ryan can see that in the last 2 weeks, Clive Messenger, who's the fleet operations manager for Mitsubishi, has accepted his invite. Hyundai have accepted it. National Distribution for Royal Mail Fleet, Logistics. We've actively gone out and connected with every fleet manager we can find on LinkedIn. And we said, we're both in the same sector. We're both in the world of fleet. We wrap fleets, your fleet management for fleets. Hopefully you like the content that we've been doing. And they're like, oh, let's see what you have been doing. Again, we go back to Ryan's articles or posts. Delivering sleek Greek graphics for hydraulics. Why a smaller vehicle branding company is more efficient and cost effective than one of the big boys. So the relevant content about fleet graphics and the benefits of going with a smaller agency are on the LinkedIn account before we go and try and connect with other fleet managers. So it's all tailored to the target audience, if that makes sense. So slight detour from the Plough 38, but I thought people might be getting a bit fed up with the restaurant example. This is how you take all that learning that you've got and all that information, and in my opinion, turn it into a very simple 6-month plan. So I would always start with reminding yourself what the goal is of why you're doing this. So for the Plough, it's to average 100 covers per day. That was back in March. You can imagine what happened as soon as COVID hit. One, they stopped work with me and everything went into pause. And then in July, they were open again and the goal changed from 100 covers in the restaurant to average 50 outside dining covers per day. So there's a big shift. Back to Fury. Does there need to be a conversation or goal around what you're doing? Who needs to have a meeting? So there needs to be an ops meeting with Steve, Max and Hattie. What is the content theme for that month? 5 reasons why the Plough 38 stands out from other Oxford restaurants. Is there going to be a video? No. What is the landing page? Where are we directing people from the social media? We're directing them to the restaurant page. What are the hashtags we're going to use? We know people search on Google, Oxford restaurant, Oxford pub, fine dining, gastropub. So these are the hashtags that we're going to use in March. What are the keywords that we're trying to work on? Oxford restaurants, fine dining, Sunday roast Oxford. All these things you should be remembering from that digital marketing questionnaire that we've just gone through. What are the calendar events? Mother's Day, Oxford Literacy Festival. What networking events are happening around this time? Tasting event promoted on Eventbrite. What networking events are happening that month? B4, NX, Nexus, Open Doors, BNI. What's the newsletter going to be that month? It's a synopsis of the blog post, the event, and an offer that we're doing. Are there any other works going on? Well, we're amending the website on the landing page. So have we made the changes to the landing page before we start the social media? You don't want to do social media and push it to an error page or to a wrong page of your site. Scheduled tasks, discuss the plan, amend the plan, create an SEO friendly page for the restaurant and the pub page, change the navigation wording. So we were changing the wording from services to restaurant to pub, create 3 infographic templates, start creating a prospect database of Oxford profile, connect with prospects on LinkedIn, create a 600-word blog post for the website, create a shorter LinkedIn article, create 4 LinkedIn comments stroke updates. So 4 LinkedIn updates from the LinkedIn article. So 1 LinkedIn article, but over a period of a month, or over a month, we're probably going to talk about that LinkedIn article 4 times. 5 Facebook posts, 5 Instagram posts, 5 comments for LinkedIn. And that is a plan that has every task that you need to do taken across 6-month, 3-month campaign, whatever you want to do. If your business goes into crisis or demand change, you're flexible, you change it. So come July, we were suddenly going for a la carte, outside eatery, outside dining. We were starting to push the excess menu already. You know, the hashtags all changed to alfresco dining, outside dining. The keywords changed to outside restaurants. We were still getting ready for Subfusk. And I'm conscious of time, so we'll quickly look at their LinkedIn profile. I need to scroll back down to where I was, so apologies. Two seconds. This will be the last point I make, Andrea, I promise, and then I can hopefully take some questions.
No, that's absolutely fine. If anybody wants to start putting their questions in the comments or in the chat, then please do so now. It's so comprehensive. I can't imagine there's going to be a stack, but please put them in. And then once John's finished showing us this final piece, then we can ask questions or answer the question.
So we've learned a lot about the Plough and what they're trying to do. I'm just going to try and find the post I was on earlier. That's my fault, Andrea, because I logged out to
That's
go
all right.
into my account. So here's the one I wanted to look at. This was the first time we talked about the competition. Win big with the Plough at 38. Give us your best Christmas side dish for a chance to win big at the Plough at 38. This has had 945 views, which sounds, it is a lot, it's great. But that's not just from one post, it's from pushing that article. So that one bit of content, that one post, we've added comments to it. We're excited to announce Caroline O'Connor from Jack FM. We're excited to announce Hayley from Experience Oxfordshire. So those influencers that we established back in February, we've approached them and they've very kindly supported what the Plough are doing. So you've got Experience Oxfordshire commenting, you've got a load more comments. You've got Catherine from Ox in a Box commenting. You've got a big Open Doors networking group who's seen as a significant person in the business networking world. And we've got all the images that are coming through branded. And we've got other people that are just entering it. I want to enter my Korean fried cauliflower and sweet soy sauce, you know. So there's been a lot of engagement under one post, but we've been feeding that. And it's all come back to something we started planning in February of this year. There's obviously more obvious ones, that Eat Out to Help Out, that got a lot of engagement. That's going to get engagement without us having to push it because it's a national scheme. Everyone wants to help the pubs. If we look at their Facebook, this was a bad job. That photo that was posted before I started working with them is not on profile. It's not on brand. It looks a mess. One of the big don'ts for them on Facebook is you don't do messy food shots, but they had. If we start going up, we can see the kind of ales coming through. So they launched a new ale. We can start seeing the posts that started happening in July, space, outside, imagery. That imagery had to be thought about very quickly. Eat Out to Help Out. Then you've got the competition coming through. And we've had, you know, a few likes, a few engagement. Hopefully there's nothing that you don't see within their LinkedIn content or their Facebook content or their Instagram content that you won't have seen in that DMQ or within that 6-month plan.
That's fantastic, John.
I will close on that, Andrea, and hopefully not
Yeah, I mean, so it's such a huge topic. You could quite easily break it down into bite-sized webinars, can you? Because it is just so immense. But what I like is the planning. As I mentioned before we went live, you know, just getting across that it is a plan, and that you're planning what content is going to go where and when and so on. It's properly scheduling that, really, that, you know, just a one-off article or a couple of tweets isn't really going to do it for you. You're in it for the long game kind of thing. So you've got that across beautifully. Oh, that's fine, Lucy. Sorry, I have to go to another meeting, but thanks for putting this on. Are there any questions from anybody relating to what we've discussed, or any wider social media issues or burning questions? I personally think that was so comprehensive. I think probably most of them have been answered, to be honest, John. Okay, I will take that as a not. Oh, hold on 1 second. No, just a thank you. What I would say is that John is open to inquiries, John. So I'll make sure that when I send out the documentation that you're giving us, then I'll make sure that everybody's got your contact details as well. I can't recall whether they're on the PowerPoint slides or not, but I'll make sure that they've got those.
Thank you.
And if you just want to have a general chat with John, he is going to be more of a regular with Oxlep and the Escalate programme. We've got some exciting things planned for the new year. And I certainly want to have John involved in some of those. You'll get to tap into his expertise that way if you're on the Escalate programme. But if that's it, then I would just extend my thanks to John for a fantastic presentation, really interactive, and it almost felt like we were in the room with you. So that's brilliant, dashing about the different screens. We're just getting some thank yous coming in now. Great session, many thanks. Thank you very much for today. It's very helpful. That's fantastic. Super. So thank you very much, everyone. I'm just checking that I haven't got one question there. Yes, so Samantha missed the beginning of the talk. Can it be viewed again? Yes, we've been recording, Samantha, so I'm quite happy to post that on YouTube and make sure that you have the link to that, so that will be done as well, so don't feel like you've missed out. But just remains for me to say thank you ever so much, John. If you want to flip me back to being the host.
Yep, we'll do. Thank you very much, everyone.
Fantastic. Any chance of seeing this again? Yes, absolutely. We'll make sure that the recording is available. But yes, thank you ever so much again, John. Really, really useful. And we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you.
All right, no worries. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.